Now, tax day is behind us, and Americans across the country are starting to expect their returns rather soon. Now, the average tax refund this year is $2,995. Now, that is roughly in line with last year, and is not a fantastic return. Again, that's an average return here. And for the average family that receives a refund, the amount is equal to about 6 weeks of income. So now, what are Americans doing with their refunds this year? You getting a new big screen TV? Are they taking a nice vacation? They're getting a new car, maybe? No. No, it turns out they're getting health care. Now, Common Dreams spoke to some people, some regular Americans, who were actually using their returns to get much needed health care now that they could actually afford it. Now, this a lot of these people actually decided not to give their last names for, to stay, I guess, on the condition of sort of anonymity and or privacy reasons. But one of the people they talked to is Megan. Now, Megan had some hospitalization issues earlier this year. She was actually hospitalized for pneumonia back in September. Now, she ended up staying a single day, and even with health insurance, she ended up paying quite a bit. She owes around $6,500. Well, that's quite a bill, right? Now, again, that is with health insurance. Now, her refund of about $4,200 is slated to go and help pay off that debt. Now, she told reporter Pat Garofalo via email, quote, "I would have put off my medical payments without the refund. Between rent and day-to-day expenses, I don't have the income to pay both. Even with insurance, the number seemed insurmountable until I got my refund. If it wasn't for that, I would have had to reapply for payment plans with the risk of being sent to collections." It's not just her, though. According to a report from JP Morgan Chase and Company Institute, which, by the way, look, I give JP Morgan Chase, the bank, a lot of guff, right? And deservingly so. But they actually went and they actually looked at this and they tried to find out what's going on with regular Americans, where they're having to spend their tax refunds. And again, it is on healthcare. Now, they found that families who receive a tax refund actually increased their out-of-pocket healthcare spending by 60% the following week. Now, that means that there's a lot of people who are putting a lot of money into healthcare. In fact, spending on healthcare remains higher than normal for 75 days post-refund. You get their refund, they're saying, yes, I'm going to go to the doctor. I can finally see a doctor this year. I can pay my deductible, and I can actually get the things that I need to live a healthy life. Now, the cash infusion, according to the report, represented by a tax refund payment, allowed more people to make more purchases of healthcare goods and services. But, even more consequentially, it facilitated larger payments. Now, that implies that the cash infusion generated by a tax refund payment triggered additional spending on large healthcare ticket items that consumers could have least afforded out of their pre-refund cash flow. Again, basically a fancy way of saying these people are normally too poor during the year, and so they wait for their basically adult Christmas, right? That's what I always call the tax refund, adult Christmas, to go and actually pay for things like healthcare. So now that's an indictment right there of our system. It shows that healthcare is so expensive and so out of reach that Americans depend on these big cash payments like their tax refund, which is basically them just overpaying throughout the year on their taxes to end up paying for it. So this is why the American healthcare, or just another example of why the American healthcare system is so incredibly broken. Now, another woman named Molly said, quote, on her refund, 100% of ours is going to pay for prenatal care and the birth of our second child, due in June. Now, she got about a refund of about $2,000 for her family, state, and local taxes. Our first child's 2017 birth was uncomplicated and routine. And while I don't remember what we paid out of pocket versus what insurance covered, again, somebody who's insured and still having to pay a large amount of money out of their pocket, the birth, the epidural, anesthesiologist the recovery in a 1-day stay in pediatrics due to jaundice, which is a very common newborn treatment or newborn ailment that gets treated at the hospital, was a little over $20,000. So we're counting on the 2019 refunds going to paying off this birth as well, as we will easily hit our deductible. Now, again, that deductible, basically, that is an upfront cost that you have to pay before you can even use your insurance. And sometimes it's incredibly high, up into the thousands of dollars. And again, they have insurance. They have insurance. And they still have a gigantic bill to pay, even after their insurance covers what it's supposed to cover, or, even after they pay their deductible. I mean, now it gets worse though. There's more numbers. 62% of the additional healthcare spending triggered by refunds went to in-person payments to healthcare service providers. So now, basically what they're saying is that it's not limited to paying for past bills for like when you get sick, right? But this actually leads to people like getting this money leads people to actually go seek out care that they wouldn't have gotten before. Okay. Now, obviously, what's the biggest percentage, right? Of places that see this money? Turns out it's dentist offices, right? 1 in 4 adults with incomes below the poverty line, they basically skip needed dental work because of the cost, right? And yet dental care is seeing, after tax refunds, sees the most disproportionate amount of money spent. So literally people wait sometimes a year just to go and get basic dental work. That's crazy. It's also crazy that we consider dental work a luxury in this country. I mean, come on. Dental's not even a part of a lot of insurance plans. So a lot of these people pay lots of money, thousands of dollars out of pocket for simple procedures. It makes no sense. It makes no sense. Dental is health, but unfortunately it's considered a vanity project. Or, in reality, of course, there's a lot of health conditions that are related to your oral health because oral health is just part of your health. I mean, it turns out you can actually die from an infected tooth. It's terrible. Then again, this is America, where we allow corporations to basically gouge us for profit on things that we need. And our for-profit insurance system is killing us. About 1 in 4 adults, 65 million people, have reported skipping a medical treatment due to cost in the last 12 months. This is according to a recent West Health Gallup survey. I've done that before. I'm sure you guys have too. I've skipped the doctor. I've skipped going to the dentist. I've skipped things that I'm supposed to be able to do, to get checkups and do these things. It's just too expensive. You can't do it. I have acid reflux. I can't afford to get that treated. And there's a lot of people in these positions that are much worse off than me. For example, there are people that can't afford their insulin that actually go to fundraisers. And if they don't, get enough money from their fundraiser, well, guess what happens? They die. They die. That system is killing us. And by the way, I want you to get a load of this number. Last year, Americans borrowed $88 billion for medical treatments. And that does not include totals from crowdfunding sites, GoFundMe. This is just people borrowing money through personal loans or banks or even these care credit cards, for example. You see a lot of this, among poor people, just having to borrow money just to get basic things done. I mean, it's horrible. So the tax season actually injects cash for those households to get the care that they wouldn't have either way or otherwise been able to afford. And now, of course, it makes sense because 40% of people don't have $400 to cover an emergency cost. I think it's over 40%. And the average savings among the poorest 20% of households is basically nothing. So they don't have savings to go and do this. So getting their taxes back, that's the only way they can do this. We're the only country in the world where this happens. I mean, your tax returns have to be spent on healthcare. This should actually really irritate Republicans conservative Republican, you hate the idea of overpaying for taxes, right? Because you can say, well, hey, I don't want to give the government interest-free loans throughout the year. I want to keep more of my money every paycheck. Well, you know what? You should be angry at this system because there are people that do this that would rather have the government take more out so they can get a larger amount of cash later that they can use on things like this, things like healthcare. So you should get really, really angry at this system. And no wonder that there's a lot of Republicans that are open to a single payer system. I think it's almost 40% of Republicans are open to a government run insurance. So, I mean, I think one policy that you can basically unite a lot of the country on is Medicare for all. So, but no matter what, direction we go, and I think we should go in the direction of Medicare for all, it should be noted that we need a change, a massive change. And we need drastic. And I think that change should be single payer. I think that change should be Medicare for all. We should make healthcare a right and not a privilege so that people don't have to spend, or save up and go for, a year or however many months without medical or dental care and until they wait till they get a large amount of money or have to borrow money just to get healthcare. It's so wrong and it's gross. We've got to change that system. Hey guys, hopefully you enjoyed that free video. Now I'm going to have to ask you a favor. Between the demonetization and the YouTube algorithm messing around with view counts, etc., we're having a hard time adjusting to the new YouTube reality, which is where you guys come in. See, we have a patreon.com/TYTNation set up to help us rely on you guys, the viewers, instead of big corporate ads. Look, you know the show. You know I'm not in favor of big corporations anyway. So help us transition away from relying on the ad model to pay the bills and sign up to be a patron, patreon.com/TYTNation. That goes a long way to help us keep the lights on. And you guys will know that you're supporting independent progressive media.